Travis told us, I knew about the 4 pups in the Melbourne University lab. When we were in Australia, we had many ways to make money from tourists when we weren't surfing. Some of the white fellas into surfing were university kids up north for the summer surf. They had money and fancy computers. One had a 3D printer, and he stole one of the thylacine samples to copy and sell as authentic. Good scam. Nobody would open the jar and tourists would smuggle them out. How much for one? I asked. 400 to 800 depending on the tourist. Here's the thing. I can get you the original still intact. If the others had DNA, this one will too. He scanned it through the bottle. Travis said. How much? I asked and he said, let me call my friend. He'll buy one then substitute the real one. I think 500 should ensure nobody is the wiser. Do it. It could give us good fragments or be too fragmented after almost 100 years. They took Tasmanian devil DNA to fill the holes, but the closest living relative is the numbat who will rebuild our genome. A sample of fresh DNA would change the game totally. I said. I saw good locations near Halls Falls and Leaners Ridge Road where the forest opens up to grassland. We might catch a tiger crossing a stream. That perspective would give us a better image than darker forest cover. Travis offered. A few days later Krista told us, Travis went back to Halls Falls to pick up the cameras. You're not going to believe what he captured. We gathered around the laptop. I couldn't believe my eyes. One camera points east, the other west, and they're hanging from the bottom of a bridge. The night was clear, the camera resolution is nice, but it's still a little dark at the distance. Travis encouraged us, just wait. The animal drew closer, and a couple other shapes appeared behind it. When the animal was about 5 meters away, it turned sideways, and the stripes were obvious as was the elongated snout and the ridged kangaroo-like tail. A cheer went up that could probably be heard across Tasmania. Uncle Artis realized it was just a piece of evidence to debate, and the only thing that changed was we were confirmed believers. Then we need DNA to give us the full genome rather than a sequenced genome from fragmented DNA. I received a text from Uncle Artis, we got one, in all caps. With DNA from a blood sample of a live animal, it was time to attempt to clone a thylacine. Thylacinus cynocephalus was the only member of the family Thylacinidae to survive. Cloning involves 3 parents, one to provide the DNA with a complete set of genes from the nucleus of an adult cell, one to provide an egg with its DNA removed to host the source DNA and create an embryo, and one as a surrogate mother to bring the embryo to term. We chose a devil mama as the surrogate mother. Uncle Artis told us, my friend breeds devils to combat devil facial tumors. Breeding devils is a tricky process, mate, because if you leave the female with the male when she's not ready, she could suffer life-threatening injuries. Errol extracted an embryo and removed the host DNA, replacing it with thylacine DNA. It's a set of chromosomes inserted into an egg cell with its existing nucleus removed, allowing the new DNA to act as the egg's genetic blueprint. Sperm or egg cells contain only one set of chromosomes, and during fertilization, the mother's chromosomes merge with the father's. Somatic cells have 2 full sets of chromosomes. We'll have 4 separate devil mothers and require just 1 teat each. How long does the process take? Ian asked. Gestation is estimated at 35 days with a pouch life of about 140 days. At that point the thylacine would den in a cave for 5 months perhaps. Thylacines never bred in captivity, so precise knowledge of breeding cycles, ecology and behavior are minimal at best. Wild thylacines might live a dozen years, probably with a generation time of 5 or 6 years. We may have to intervene, and once gestation has taken place move the joey to the pouch manually or create an artificial pouch to feed her formula from milk devils. I told him. Errol said, we did try 2 eggs in each mama but they couldn't support 2, so until we have a thylacine mother, let's stick to 1 egg in the mama devils. Each mama lost a joey and we moved the remaining 4 to the incubators we had set up. The clones were transferred from the womb to the pouch nipples as soon as they emerged. They can build this strength in future generations, but the pendulum is pushed too far to the left for these little gals to take any risk. We continued to feed them on devil's milk and our 4 young ladies began to grow. Travis was the first to speak. T. Emmer and I would like to name one after Mathina. An Aboriginal princess is adopted and abandoned by Sir John Franklin. Very tragic. They all look identical at this stage. Which one do you want to be, Mathina? Magda asked. I'll color code sterile leg tags for each of them. Mathina will be green. Errol suggested. May I also suggest we don't name them after people we know, because if they should pass away, that would be morbid, and everyone agreed. How about Karma and Dharma after Lord Andrew and Sir Malcolm's tigresses? Cheesy suggested and we all agreed, even though Travis and T. Emmer had never met either of them. Yellow and blue. Errol noted. Magda volunteered, Amelia, for Amelia Earhart. She was a pioneer and explorer who could lead our band of ladies into the future. And Errol said, Amelia is red. The order of Dicyromorphia includes most Australian carnivorous marsupials, like wolves, dunnarts, numbats, devils, and the thylacine. The cleavage stages of marsupial development vary. Marsupials don't have a complex placenta to protect the embryo from its mother's immune system. Perhaps that was responsible for our loss of embryos in the first attempt. Magda noted, their front limbs and their little facial structures are much more developed than the rest of their bodies at first. Marsupials must develop grasping forepaws during their early youth to make the journey to the pouch. But those same limbs eventually must become front paws. The Joeys were born blind, furless, and smaller than a baby carrot. Magda made artificial pouches and positioned them as they would be on their mother. Inside the pouches were nipples from bottles we placed behind the pouch. Cheesy shortened Mathina's name to Maddie. Her pouch was located next to Amelia's as they seemed to be quite chummy. Karma and Dharma's pouches were further down the pen the boys built for them. Joeys liked the comfort of the pouch and were in no hurry to leave them out. The Joeys were beginning to spend increasing lengths of time out of their pouches and interact with each other. Soon we would have to consider a change of diet. Survival skills were not necessary for this group because their future was building the species. A personal sacrifice by our pioneer ladies. In a couple of weeks, we'll carry on to Lake Gordon where Uncle Artis purchased a piece of property and Stephanie's Uncle Nevin was getting it ready for us to use this summer. We plan to build kennels and release most of our thylacines in that area of Tasmania, but that would be saved for a future time. Thousands of kilometers of remote shoreline existed around Lake Gordon. What a great place for a penal colony. We were looking to a future where we could release breeding pairs of thylacines into the remote area around Lake Gordon near Impact Camp. That would take a few years to breed a group of males and then train them to survive. Eventually a group of mates could be matched and then released together in monitored dens in the wild. Rabbit was building remote dens where he could place our honeymoon couples to give them their best opportunity to survive and in close proximity to familiar neighbors. The dens were monitored so their health was always known. Errol told us, measured thylacine bite force quotient was 166 or similar to a coal. In a mammal, a high bite force is associated with predators that take prey larger than themselves. Analysis of the skeletal frame and observations of the thylacine in captivity suggested the species will pursue predators, singling out a prey item and pursuing them until the prey was exhausted. Cheesy added, yet I've heard trapper reports that the tiger was an ambush predator, or it hunted in small family groups. Of course, they gave them better military tactics than Napoleon, with the main group herding prey in the general direction of an individual who was waiting in ambush. Errol added, Sun Tzu says, fat thylacine don't catch many coals. Uncle Artis told him, in captivity, thylacines were fed a wide variety of foods, including dead rabbits and wallabies as well as beef, mutton, horse, and only occasionally poultry. One report says a thylacine refused to eat dead wallaby flesh or kill and eat live wallaby. Ultimately it was persuaded to eat by the smell of blood. Lily and Rick brought the future dads to Impact Camp from Halls Falls where they were born and raised. The male tigers were about a year old when they began their training for eventual release. New people would be needed at Halls Falls for the next batch of tigers planned. The Impact Lab's family was expanding as fast as the thylacine population in Tasmania. Robert told us the 4 male thylacines, Steve Irwin, Charlie, Neil, and Terry learning to hunt for themselves. We've been releasing small prey into their enclosures. It's important to use the same prey that they will be hunting in the wild around here, so I've used lift traps to catch pedemelin. He told us. The rufous-bellied pedemelin, better known as Thylagale billardieri, was a stocky animal with a relatively short tail. They're actually very muscular and don't give up without a fight. I like to get the females around 3 kilograms in weight to start with. We know they can't get out of the enclosure so the prey can elude our little fellas for some time at this point. They'll learn quickly. Hunger will teach them to track their prey, Robert said. Lu Xiaoying was a poor, uneducated woman who supported herself by scavenging through the trash in Jinhua, China. She adopted or rescued 30 babies which she found abandoned in the trash. The chaos of the Cultural Revolution, China's one-child policy, and extreme poverty led some parents to dump their unwanted babies in the garbage. A group moan was audible over the entire call. Lu was definitely one of our first mothers. Our next mother was Georgina Duca Tesla, Nikola Tesla's mother. Enough said. She not only passed on her DNA to Nikola but was responsible for making him the man he was. Shaping his personality, giving him goals in life, and showing him how to treat other people and the planet. She epitomizes what our new thylacine mothers should be if they want to create a new evolution of their species. She had the Tesla flash in common with her son Nikola, which gave her the ability to have insights into things others didn't and make her an inventor herself. Patria, Didi, Minerva, and Maria Teresa were the 4 Mirabal sisters from the Dominican Republic who rejected the dictatorship of Rafael Trujillo and became known as the Butterflies. They witnessed a massacre executed by the regime and formed the movement of the 14th of June to dismantle Trujillo's rule through public protest. The Butterflies were repeatedly subjected to torturing and imprisonment. While on their way to visit their jailed husbands, Minerva, Maria Teresa, and Patria were detained and beaten to death by Trujillo's lackeys who attempted to stage their deaths as accidental. Didi continued their work and raised all of their children together with her own. Cheesy informed us. Didi took over as the mother to the entire family. In the wild, our mothers may have to adopt orphans should something happen to one of the other couples. Didi had my vote. The Hindu Tridevi was a trinity of supreme divinity personified by the goddesses Sarasvati, Lakshmi, and Parvati. They were seen to be the manifestations of Mother Nature. Our new moms were going to be re-manifestations of Mother Nature, so it wouldn't hurt to have the Tri-Devi's help. Mother Lakshmi represented our guarantee of success in all ventures. Mother Parvati represented our guarantee of fertility. Once our honeymoon couples are on their own, the future wild generations will be up to them. Mother Saraswati guaranteed a calm and century demeanor. It was only coincidence that the end of Kali Yuga would be signaled by the Saraswati River flowing again. Indira Gandhi worked to institute democracy and create jobs to combat food shortages. She said, education is a liberating and democratizing force, cutting across the barriers of caste and class, smoothing out inequalities imposed by birth and circumstance. She was assassinated for her good work. Cheesy summarized. Kathy Headley started Mothers Without Borders to assist orphan children around the world. She led a group of volunteers to Romania, where some of the worst orphanages in the world existed in the post-Ceausescu world. Mothers Without Borders sent volunteers to help children in Bolivia, Bosnia, Guatemala, India, Mexico, Zimbabwe, Uganda, and Nepal. Cheesy told us. She had my vote not only for Floren's sake but because children's rights around the world were a personal focus of mine. The future mothers of the species were brought to Lake Gordon, where they were matched with their mates. Each pen was about an acre in size, with a den created which would match the ones they would be relocated to. Their blankets from Halls Falls were brought too. Food was released in the pen for them to hunt. Lou was matched with Charles Darwin and immediately took to each other. They romped around the pen together, taking every opportunity to lick and sniff they could, Viella told us. Dee Dee was matched with Errol Flynn, and they were a little more reserved, but within 20 minutes they settled down together. Georgina was matched with Dr. Terry Trask, and they did not immediately take to each other either. Terry tried to build himself a separate den, but within 2 or 3 days they had decided there wasn't much else in the pen. Robert said, but my favorite pairing was Parvati and Steve Irwin. They will make it in the wild for sure. Nevin has shot and killed a thylacine. Errol told me, and I asked, OMG. Was it one of ours, or are there more in the wild? I don't know, I just got an email from Lily. Her uncle Nevin told her what he had done. Let's call Robert. Cheesy dialed Robert in and put the video on the big screen. It was clear Robert was beside himself. I discovered a tree down against the fence on the south side of the enclosure. I looked for Steve Irwin, but when I didn't find him in the compound, I looked further afield in case he'd climbed the tree and escaped, which he had. His tracks were easy to pick up heading south, but Nevin's property must be 40 kilometers away. Lily sent us a YouTube site. And Errol ran the link. Nevin appeared on the screen, and lying on the table in front of him was Steve Irwin's pelt. It brought a tear to Robert's eye that he couldn't conceal. Try and deny this one, Dr. Trask. I'm gonna send you the tip of his tail so you can get some fresh DNA. Nevin took out a knife, cut off part of Steve's tail and put it into a canister. I'll tell you though, the meat is rubbish, Tucker. I don't think the aboriginals ate these critters, because even my dogs won't. Thank God he didn't send the left ear. Cheesy noted. If he skinned him, we're lucky he hasn't found it yet. Lily told us he plans to auction the pelt on the internet, but he's had some death threats already. I told him I would come and stay with him for a couple of days. Maybe I can steal the pelt. Travis and TMer tried to lure him away from home by telling Otto they'd found another plant of the same species he was looking for. Get Nevin and we'll take you to it this weekend. It's outside the reserve. Unable to find the plant, they apologized to Nevin and Otto and didn't charge Otto for their services. Otto seemed to accept that, but was intrigued by Nevin's story. Lily visited Nevin's house and procured the pelt from Nevin's hiding place under his bed. Travis had friends in Melbourne who were graduates of the university. Posing as lab workers, they swapped the package in Dr. Trask's mail with another sample from a pedemolan tail. The internet wasn't surprised when the sample Nevin sent to Dr. Trask was not thylacine. His auction stalled, and when he realized someone had stolen his pelt, he was furious. He vowed to find another. Where there's one, there's more. He told Lily. Uncle Nevin had forced us to accelerate our plans. We checked in with Robert and Viella to see how close we were to release date 1. Robert has created honeymoon suites for each of our little darlings. He went out in his canoe with a bag of cement and created the perfect dens for thylacine families to live in. They're facing the best way to capture the maximum amount of sun, yet block the winter wind that comes in from the westies. Viella informed us he's found some excellent vantage points for them. If they stand at the entrance of their dens, they will be able to spot approaching trouble long before it spots them. Robert plans to gather their blankets with their scent on it to place inside so that they know it's their home. Robert continued, the shelters will have cameras and sensors inside and out of the den that we can monitor all day every day from the internet. Each thylacine will have the new cheesy chip sensor embedded in them for tracking them at all times. But Lily kept an eye on her Uncle Nevin and Otto Naughton. We continued.